Literally, can you not read between the lines? He's talking about people like you that tried to downplay what Caitlin Clark is bringing. Like you, that every time we bring up Caitlin Clark's name, we have to say, but what about this old person nobody cares about? But what about this old player nobody cares about? But what about that person that nobody cares? Just because we're talking about Caitlin Clark, we don't every single time need to go back in the history books and bring up some old name that 95% of the people that are now following this league.
The air in the studio thickens. It is a moment of unadulterated truth, a verbal takedown that exposes the fragile ecosystem of sports media. A seasoned Hall of Famer, Shannon Sharpe, is no longer debating, he is delivering a verdict. He has cornered the argument, demanding to know if the opposition can read between the lines of their own prejudice. This is the moment the narrative cracks, where the delicate charade of respecting the game is stripped bare to reveal a resistance to Caitlin Clark that has nothing to do with basketball and everything to do with ego. This isn't just another sports debate. This is the culmination of a year-long war over the soul of women's basketball. Caitlin Clark didn't just enter the WNBA. She detonated a bomb under its outdated infrastructure, forcing a reckoning that its old guard, its media sycophants, and specifically the talking heads at ESPN were not prepared for. For years, the league existed in a vacuum, protected from the harsh glare of public scrutiny. But Caitlin Clark broke the glass. She brought the casuals, the investors, and the eyeballs. And in doing so, she exposed the uncomfortable truth that many in the WNBA ecosystem preferred the silence. Shannon Sharpe, armed with the undeniable statistics of a generational talent, has decided to wage war on the delusion. He is calling out the hypocrisy of journalists like Andrea Carter, who spent the season trying to shackle Caitlin Clark to the past, insisting that her success was an affront to the women who came before. The conflict is visceral. It is a battle between the nostalgia of a league that was ignored and the reality of a league that is finally being seen, all because of one player. Shannon Sharpe is not just analyzing, he is executing the critics piece by piece. The immediate fallout from Shannon Sharpe's confrontation is a seismic shockwave through the WNBA discourse. The core of the argument, which he relentlessly exposes, is the absurd gatekeeping that has defined Caitlin Clark's rookie year. As Shannon Sharpe points out, the resistance to Caitlin Clark is unlike anything seen in the NBA. When we discuss LeBron James, we do not insist on a dissertation about Jerry West or Willis Reed before acknowledging his greatness. When we praise Kevin Durant, we don't demand a comparative analysis of Tracy McGrady as a prerequisite for respect. The game moves forward, the torch is passed. Yet with Caitlin Clark, the media, particularly the voices on ESPN, insist that every sentence of praise must be prefaced with a eulogy for the past.
Caitlin Clark, what she's doing doesn't minimize what they've done, but we should have been giving her the credit. We saw the ratings, we saw the merchandise sales, we saw the attendance, but y'all want to make it about something else. Oh, what about the women that laid the foundation? What about this? What about it? That ain't got nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is box office. She's doing this. And instead of giving her credit, y'all tried to make it about, oh, y'all poo-pooing the old guard. Y'all never talked about the old.
This is the devastating crux of Shannon Sharpe's reality check. By demanding we retroactively credit the pioneers every single time we discuss Caitlin Clark, the detractors are not honoring history. They are weaponizing it to minimize the present. Shannon Sharpe dismantles this logic, arguing that Caitlin Clark's success does not erase what players like Diana Taurasi or Candace Parker built. But conversely, the legacy of those legends should not be used as a cudgel to beat back the commercial and cultural relevance that Caitlin Clark has single-handedly generated. The strategic consequence of this debate is a fracture in the league's identity. The WNBA is no longer a niche interest, it is a mainstream product, and Caitlin Clark is the CEO. Long-term, this pushback from figures like Andrea Carter has been catastrophic for their credibility. Shannon Sharpe is highlighting that these analysts had decades to write about the women of the WNBA. They chose silence. The ratings were low, the coverage was sparse. It was only when Caitlin Clark arrived, generating a 1.78 million viewership average compared to the dusty 394,000 of the past, that they suddenly found their voices to argue about respect. The league's attendance records are shattering, the Indiana Fever drawing over 16,000 fans per game while other teams lag behind. This isn't a rising tide lifting all boats. This is a tsunami created by Caitlin Clark, and the old guard is drowning in their own irrelevance.
Conflate the two, not conflate the two. People want to compare the two. right? When we're talking about Nikola Jokic, we don't compare Jokic with Shaq. We don't compare Jokic with Wilt. We don't compare Jokic with Russell. We're talking about him and his contemporaries, Jokic, Embiid, some of the big men that are playing in today's game. Kevin Durant, we don't compare Kevin Durant. Every time we bring up Kevin Durant, we don't always feel the need to go back and talk about Tracy McGrady. We can compare their games.
Shannon Sharpe compares this phenomenon to the NBA. He acknowledges that we compare Nikola Jokic to his contemporaries, Joel Embiid, not to Wilt Chamberlain. We don't force a historical tangent every time Kevin Durant is mentioned, but in the WNBA, the rules are different. Why? Shannon Sharpe argues it is a defensive mechanism. By constantly demanding that we mention the plumbers, nurses, dressmakers, and shoemakers of the 90s and early 2000s, they are trying to force an artificial hierarchy where Caitlin Clark is just a part of the continuum, rather than the catalyst that changed everything. This is pure cognitive dissonance. Caitlin Clark is box office. She is must-see TV. She is the athlete that people in Europe, China, and Australia are paying to watch. Yet the internal media resistance is so strong that they tried to sell the narrative that she was averaging 5 points a game to justify her Olympic snub. Shannon Sharpe has had enough of this lying. He points out the hypocrisy. Before the Olympic break, Caitlin Clark was averaging 17. 8 points and 5 assists, numbers superior to some guards who made Team USA. The physical hurdle for Caitlin Clark wasn't the defense on the court. It was the mental gymnastics required for the media to admit she was good.
Great point. Before we listen to Andrea Carter give her word salad, she's stuttering. She's already not ready. I told you folks in the beginning of the video, she found herself in a debate that she was not ready for. She's used to Elle Duncan and Shania Gumike just having girl talk at WNBA Countdown. They're used to that, but they're not used to Shannon Sharpe and Stephen A. Smith actually giving some real pushback in this subject. People are even mad. Oh my God, they were so mean to Andrea. Oh my God, I can't believe they talked to her like that. You guys are so weak.
In the clip, we see the high-stakes climax of the story. Andrea Carter stutters, caught off guard by actual pushback. She entered the studio expecting a friendly chat, a girl talk session where she could spew nonsensical, foolish, dumb takes without consequence. But Shannon Sharpe and Stephen A. Smith are not playing that game. Shannon Sharpe's growing media leverage via Nightcap and his independent ventures means he no longer fears the ESPN reprimand. He is free to speak the truth. He points out that the resistance isn't just about ignorance, it is about control. The players want the money and the benefits of a top-rated sports league, but they resist the attention and the critique that comes with it. Looking to the future, the verdict is already in. Caitlin Clark has forced the WNBA out of the dustbin of history. The players and pundits who tried to keep her in her place have lost. Shannon Sharpe's reality check serves as the definitive nail in the coffin of the old narrative. The league can no longer pretend that Caitlin Clark is just another player. She is the sun and everything else in the WNBA is orbiting her. The resistance is futile. The era of Caitlin Clark is here, and Shannon Sharpe is ensuring the history books reflect that truth, whether Andrea Carter likes it or not.